Yo guys, Theo here on Common Sense. Our boy, exercise scientist Dr. Mike Israetel, has gotten a lot of criticism lately, for a very good reason I think. And I've been meaning to do this video series where I sort of give my take on different individuals and maybe things that's been going around or happening around them, but not just from this criticizing, roasting, negative point of view. That's the easy route to take. You know, I have this podcast called Human Beings because I'm highly interested in human beings, what makes up an individual, how did they become that way. And I also have this non-dualistic view on, well, life, but also people, that none of us are 100% good or bad. We are complex, we're contradictory, we're many things at once. So someone like Dr. Mike, I can be highly critical of and really dislike most things about, but I can also sympathize with certain things and understand why things are that way. In the same way, there could be someone that I mostly just agree with and think is great, but it could be this one area where like, oh man, I really wish they'd change their mind about that or change the way they go about that or whatever. So since this is the first time I'm going into this, I don't know how it's going to go, and I'm just going to tell you, this is not my personal gym. Right before I started hitting record here, someone wanted to come in and train, so I really just have one take now. So please, if this seems a little scattered, I'm sure I'm going to forget something and not completely get some point that I want to, but just please bear with me, okay? I'm going to start with what I'm critical about with Dr. Mike and then sort of tie the knot and talk about why I think things are that way and some things in some ways that I can sympathize with Dr. Mike, okay? So I'm someone that's been silently critical of Dr. Mike for many years now, but I've never spoken about it because, you know, I don't really see it as, I'm a fitness person, but not just completely. I see myself more as the outskirts of the fitness sphere, not at the center of it. I do holistic bodybuilding, so natural bodybuilding is a huge part of the process, what I do practice myself and what I talk about on here. So I kind of have one foot within fitness and one foot in whatever else is uncommon sense. It's holistic, right? But so when I was still learning about fitness, like, of course I'm still learning, but I mean refining my own approach to getting stronger and putting on muscle, right? And consuming more fitness content. When I came upon Dr. Mike's content, I just felt like this is just way too intellectualized. And when I say intellectualized, I don't mean intelligent, you know, I mean putting way too many theoretical frameworks around something that's really quite practical, like lifting weights and putting on muscle, you know. And I'm not saying that any of these concepts that they don't matter, but I just felt like this is, because I was at the time making good progress and it didn't seem to stop, and I just felt like if I have to take all these things into consideration, I feel like I feel more confused, I have to think so much about what I'm doing and probably get worse results, you know. Like the one main thing, my main criticism when it comes to the approach to training, what I feel like the message that's spread about training, like these things like stimulus to fatigue ratio, and you don't really have to train to failure. You can have this and this many reps in reserve, or this RPE, you know. It's not that that's not true at all, but what I'd seen personally in the gym is that people don't train nearly hard enough, and I personally have had this approach all the time that if anything I pushed it too hard sometimes, like taking everything beyond failure, but I'd seen that it's my high intensity and progressive overload that's what really drives my progress. And first of all, it's so throwing all these big terms around. It also seems like, it just seems like someone that almost doesn't want it to be easy to understand, that wants to make it seem like, yeah, this is all highly complicated, but I'm an exercise scientist. Like, it's complicated, but I'm bringing you the real way, the best optimized way to you here. So it just felt like that is, I just had this feel of like it's a bit of a scam. It's making science a gimmick, making it seem like it's so freaking complicated. And also that some people are going to get like paralysis by analysis by that it's like, it is so many things to think about, like what if I'm doing it wrong, you know, I think I don't even dare to go for it completely. But then also, if someone actually tries to apply these methods with thinking so much about stimulus to fatigue and I mean, extremely strict, perfect technique too, and reps in reserve and all that the average person would end up just not making good gains, right? Yeah, because this approach with keeping reps in reserves and that has its place, but it's more for advanced lifters that already know what train to failure is, that already can push themselves and might, in some cases, by dialing a little bit on the intensity lever down and the volume up or something for certain purposes, that might be right. But the typical person that consumes Renaissance periodization, it's called, right, the YouTube channel, they are not going to be highly advanced. Most of them are not training hard enough already, right? So I was just frustrated with this. But back then also, I couldn't quite give myself as much credit because I hadn't come as far with all this. But that was always my gut feeling, this is just someone making it a gimmick. This is not good. This is actually not good information for people. Now, most recently, there's been a lot of criticism, and I very much enjoyed watching this guy, Solomon Nelson. Seems to be a young, natural bodybuilder kind of guy. Had Lyle McDonald. That he's new to me. I think it's an old school fitness-based, it's sort of the original science-based fitness guy. You see, I don't really know all these people too well, right? But they had a long video essay where they really went through everything I could ever be critical about with Mike's approach that I picked up on, but it's in greater detail. I'll link that in the description. And most recently, they had Greg Doucette on too, and Greg, I can't say that I'm a huge fan or anything. There are things to criticize there too, but I gotta say, if I pick between Greg and Mike, I definitely pick Greg. I feel like what you see is what you get much more with him, and he doesn't overcomplicate things. One thing I say I really love about Greg is train harder than last time. Talking point, because that's really, it's so simple. We have to follow up, of course, with a good program and stuff at some point, but really, if you can train harder than you did last time and you keep doing that most of the time, you're gonna make good progress, right? And yeah, I don't watch many Greg videos, but I've absolutely enjoyed watching his Zoomer edited roasts of Mike. I'm laughing my ass off at those. So, well, apart from this, that I don't really agree with the information much that Mike is sharing. I'm thinking that it's sort of a gimmick, making it seem like I have the best way, the best optimum. If you want to make scientific gains, scientific fitness, then you should do as I say. Well, the people that follow this guy too are just so terrible, They are like someone that's just blindly following a religion, and barely even read the Bible or whatever, just listen to the preacher. But even more so, if we're going to make the true point, they haven't found God within. They just listen to someone talk about. It's like people think they're having a scientific approach because the authority that they're following calls themselves like the science. I'm an exercise scientist, But there's so many times when Dr. Mike is criticized, that he doesn't handle well at all, by the way. That he does. It's not like he responds with a scientific rebuttal. It's just, I think it was in response to people that criticizes his training intensity, the failure to fail. He just said well, those people are just not intelligent. And it's like, well, why? Can you tell us that? And so now we're getting more to the person of Mike, and something he's been roasted a lot about lately is his great failure as a competitive bodybuilder, right? That he came in I'm honestly, I don't know competitive bodybuilding, but I can tell that he's not in the condition he's supposed to be. And when I just listen to other people, it's like he would have needed at least another month or two of dieting to get into contest shape, right? And so his stated mission, I've heard, is that why he wants that IFBB Pro card is to prove that his methods work, But in other places he says that it's just for his own spiritual journey. And this seems to be a common thing with Mike. He just says whatever sounds good at the time. He backtracks on things without admitting wrong or saying that he changed his mind, Just whatever sticks in the moment. And of course, this why I compete in bodybuilding that's not a scientific answer to that, but it's the same thing though about different arguments for why I should train. I've heard different reasonings at different places or different views even. Just backpedaling on the volume thing, It's talked so much about volume, how that's the main thing, At other times it's like, I've been wrongly painted out to be this volume guy, So he changes his position all the time without ever really truly saying I was wrong or something like that. And that should be so obvious that if you're really a scientific kind of person, your views are going to be consistent, and you're going to update them, and you're not going to feel any shame about being like wrong, because you listen, you watch the data or something, and then you got new data and you change your mind. That's a scientific way, right? But so about this, his failure in competitive bodybuilding, he just cannot admit at all that I just fucking suck at dieting, I'm stubborn, I don't listen to my coaches. Like, I mean, I guess he says that, but he always, it's this narcissism that he has to make himself, it's somehow not his fault still, you know, that it's about the tanning company, they failed his tan, and that would be a thing, but it's like, you can tell that, well, whether the tan was good or not, I wouldn't really know, honestly, but like, you're still too fat, you're not in shape, it's not the tan. And then when he talks about like why he doesn't listen to his coaches, it's because he's more intelligent than them, you know. And when he's on this copious amount of gear, he like takes enjoyment in dissecting their approach and telling them why they're wrong, you know. So it's still about his like great intellect. Like he's more intelligent than pretty much all bodybuilding coaches there are, and he takes enjoyment in kind of intellectually dismantling them like that. But it's like, okay, great, you're fucking brainiac, giga brain, you know, but you still failed though. To what use was all of that? So now I've gone on for quite some time about like just the things that come to mind here that I've been critical about, that I don't really like about the guy. I don't like the bully attitude, you know. I'll start transitioning into how I sympathize with him. That one thing, when I've been thinking like this pretty much since the first time I ever saw anything with him, something that started like maybe respect him and sympathize with him more was when he talked so openly about the side effects he got from steroids. Still, on the one hand, it's like one thing when he wants to come out so tough, he has all these like insane, violent thoughts on the steroids, but still, he did talk about openly, and you understand that, okay, that's a man that has like hell inside, and yeah, has a lot of like psychotic thoughts, lots of aggression within him, and he's speaking about it very openly. I believe it, you know, and yeah, having to compose yourself and stay calm while always feeling all of that takes a lot of willpower. As someone that's maybe different demons, but has had their demons inside, I could respect that and be like, okay, you know, even if I don't see eye to eye with a guy with medicine, I gotta respect that he talks about this, you know. Then I saw this video where he he watches, reacts to all kinds of people and their training, which also kind of funny that there is always something to criticize for him, even with the greats, you know. Like, of course, they had better results if only they followed Renaissance periodization's way, you know. But I watched it specifically on Kyriakos Grizzly, you know. And so if you don't know that guy, he's a big fat Greek guy that just loves lifting, you know. He posts all these feats of strength in kind of unconventional ways, you know, high rep, sometimes a kind of short range of motion. That's not what I would prescribe for most people, but it's also, I know that it's because he's had some injuries, you know, that why he does things a certain way is not because he thinks it's like optimal or something. It's like, it's what works, and he just lives for it. He's someone that really embodies the love for lifting, you know. And so I saw Mike react to this, and there was this like, it's one thing, I understand the guy is kind of a meme, Kyriakos, so joking around a little bit is fine, but what I got from the video was this like, it was condescending. It was not all in good fun. It was always making up like, oh, see ladies, if you were lucky enough, you could be that bench and blah, blah, blah. It's like, Kyriakos has never made himself out to be some kind of fucking alpha, like just slaying pussy all the time, you know. He just posts what he loves, you know, and he jokes about this. And he knows he's big and fat. He will film when he goes and stands on the scale and it says like full, you know. But it's so clear. A guy like Dr. Mike, what actually bothers him, what I think really bothers him when seeing a guy like Kyriakos is that even though Kyriakos is like big and fat like that, he's way more comfortable when who he is than Mike is. And from what I've seen with Mike is that he seems to have had a troubled relationship with his father, and he seems to have been bullied as a kid, you know. And you could see why that would make someone want to be like the big dog, you know, in one way or another. Like, I am the main scientific authority here. Listen to me, I have the best way, you know, and look at all these little, you know, losers, what they're up to. I can see that, and I can even sympathize with, you know, someone that has like maybe a fraction, less than 1% of the following that Mike has. I can still see how, because, you know, we all have our certain insecurities, and I can see how it can get to your head sometimes when a lot of people are viewing you as like the man, the guy, you know, and suddenly when things aren't going so well and you start getting criticized, I can see how that's really tough on the ego when you for a long time been getting to enjoy this, I am the big dog, you know. And because, you know, what I see with Mike is that he just doubles down more and more on things. And I can see why it's hard at this point to kind of admit that, hey, maybe I've been on an ego trip. And yeah, I did completely fail my bodybuilding competition. It's due to me and my ego and stubbornness. You know, all of this with having a following, like sometimes it gets to you. You know, I need to take some time, kind of think about things and you know, recalibrate myself and get back to it. But doing something like that would take like giant balls, of course. And someone like me, I can almost get emotional when I think about it, because while I, as you've heard in this video, don't really like Mike much, I can really sympathize with that. I think the impression I get is a man with a lot of pain, a lot of insecurities. And I don't say, I think it can sound like demeaning when you say that someone has insecurities, but I mean just factually, you know, I've fought a lot of demons myself, and yeah, I can almost get emotional by the thought like that. It would be so impressive. I would be so, I would be able to forgive absolutely everything if I saw a person that has, you know, it's such a big build-up on yourself that you have, that you're supposed to be this man. No, I am all this, I am best at this. No, it isn't my fault. And you still have to go completely against that and be like, you know what, it was my fault. Yeah, I have failed. You know, I have blah, 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 blah. Because also, I don't think, by the way, just because I think now the scientific part is more of a gimmick, I don't think that's how it started for me. I don't think it's a conscious decision, like, yeah, I'll fool people, you know, and use science to do it. But it transitioned, it becomes something like that. Yeah, I'll just share personally that I'll never grift, I hope, you know, like it's difficult when you start out doing something like this and you just want to help people. And sometimes when it's your job, you have to kind of think of what will people click and how do I make money off of this, you know, keeping that balance where it's still genuine, it's not easy, but not just that, you know, like someone like myself that I base a lot of my content like on my personal story. I use myself as an example, my experience to tell you things. And so it's sometimes a hard balance to tell things about me, but not making it about me, you know. And I can see in the past how I definitely fell victim, I was going to say, but it's all my fault, you know. That I suddenly I made myself out to be this like kind of superhero person, and I feel I need to live up to that, to show that, and I like the credit I get for that or something. Then something really difficult happens in my life, so I feel like shit, and I feel completely unable to deliver that here on screen. And instead of just saying that immediately, like, guys, I'm going through a tough time, I'm going to have to chill a little bit or something. You put all these expectations on yourself and you feel as if I have to live up to this still, you know. It's hard. It's hard to admit that maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was on an ego trip, you know. Maybe all my shit came to the surface. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to rant a bit about this. I'm sure I don't feel super happy with the structure of the video, but that's also the point. I don't want this to be super edited. I just want to share my take as it is like this on a person. So guys, you can like and comment, give me your input on someone like Mike. Someone like Mike, yeah, that would be strange. Just on the whole, on everything here. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching, getting jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually, working on ourselves, body, mind, and soul, becoming that person that hopefully doesn't go on a huge ego trip and just manifests a certain physique through the really cool individual that they become in the process. So if you're interested in that, you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me. It's in the description below. I'll tell you about my different programs. You can pick up my training book, everything training, philosophy, mindset related you need in order to become a self-reliant, jacked and stacked individual. Please subscribe for more content about fitness, fast losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys, but not Dr. Mike's, the mindset. Peace.